Well, as my family sat down to supper last night, I enjoyed listening to their reflections on the Christmas Eve service. Teresa and Morgan, of course, were critical of each other's vocals in Jesus Christ, the apple tree. Thank God for their accompanist, right? Lexi said the sermon wasn't too long, but it could have been shorter. And Vic and Lisa made sure to tell me something about the temperature in the nave. But it was Pax who summed it all up for me when he said, "The donkey stole the show." In other words, my family really loved it. The Phares are a tough crowd, my friends. But once you get to know them, they aren't so bad, perhaps just a little bit self-conscious. Pax's words, though, underscored the fact that after the service, several folks came up to me to tell me that Alistair was actually eating the poinsettia leaves at one point in the service, taking his role as the donkey very seriously, and that if I hadn't already, that I should reach out to his parents and let them know that if his tummy was upset, there was a reason for that. I think someone got to him before he started eating the Nandina. I am happy to report that all is well on Christmas morning and that Alistair's tummy is just fine. But for the record, though, I'm going to have to refute Paxton's claim because I don't think that the donkey earned the Oscar nominee last night. I'd have to give that to Mary, because not only did she have to manage that unruly donkey, but she made sure that everyone who was at the nativity was where they were supposed to be, even the angels. And in the midst of all of that, she made her way to the piano and led them and us in her rendition of Go Tell It on the Mountain. So Mary gets my vote for decorum under pressure, having a baby and still being able to play the piano, and her ability to tame even the most stubborn of beasts. After such a performance, it seems that some folks have demanded a sequel. And you may be interested in the fact that there are already some ideas that have been floated for the Easter season, but I'm afraid that you'll have to wait until then. But don't worry, it's not that far off. Easter, if you can believe it, is on March 31st this year. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let us turn our attention back to Christmas, to this wonderful prequel found in the Gospel according to St. John this morning. I think it's safe to say that the majority of Christians think of the nativity stories of Matthew and Luke before they think of John when it comes to Christmas. I mean, can you imagine a group of 4 to 14-year-olds bringing a universe into being? That would involve a lot of cardboard. And instead of costumes that we already have made up for donkeys and cows, we'd somehow have to figure out how to make beams of light out of tinfoil and glitter. All the while knowing that at some point we'd have to turn those kids loose in the nave and encourage them to flash to and fro. This all the while as adolescent interpretations of the virtues of grace and truth took shape before us and before, let's say, a lot of visitors. What could go wrong? In the case made for the incarnation set in space then, I think it would be safe to assume that most folks would rather be at the manger. And that is okay. That is really okay. Christ born as a child is perhaps one of the most tender and profound moments in all of human history. Nevertheless, to understand the full import behind the question of the hymn, what child is this? We'd be left wanting, I think, without John's perspective. For here, Christ is the one who has existed before time as the life and light of all people. That's what we hear today. And it was this life, this light, the Word that was made flesh and then wrapped in a swaddling cloth and laid in a manger. And John is very particular about this, so that all those who received him, who believe in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who have been born not of blood or of the will of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. In the beginning was grace. And I hope that after hearing that gospel, that you can see something else there today. The thought of you. The thought of you as a people who have received him and continue to believe in his name. Before you even were, you were loved. And as such, my words from last night stand. Will you, from this morning on, choose to awake each day to the truth that God loves you, that God is born each day in you, and that in your own heart lays the foundation of a mansion prepared for him who slung a universe into being and yet had no place to lay his head? Will you allow yourself to come home to the realization, the revelation that is Christmas, that this holy child of Bethlehem has descended from heaven and will continue to be with you as you pray, and that in casting out our sin, he will enter in and be born in us each day? Will you, who have heeded the summons to be here this morning, continue to open yourself up to that love, the love that came down on Christmas, so that Christ may answer prayer in you and you in him? I hope so. And as you do, may he live and move and grow in you and you in him. Merry Christmas.